Yo, what's good, you guys? So today we'll be breaking down the dichotomies of MBTI. Why dichotomies instead of cognitive functions? I talked about this with a couple of people and honestly decided that MBTI should be used as a dichotomical system. Most people who try to get into MBTI, they try to focus on the cognitive functions. They're nearly always mistaken. They're nearly always mistyping. And if you look at Myers-Briggs, her own application, it is based on dichotomies. In my opinion, we should use MBTI as a dichotomy system, kind of like a big five, and then socionics for the real shit, for the real typology. Do you think maybe we should just go back to MBTI being used as a dichotomy system, or you think we should circle jerk the cognitive functions, which then obviously will correlate terribly to every other system? So let's start with the extroversion versus introversion. What do you focus on? Again, those dichotomies are preferences. With the extroversion, you're focusing on the object. You're focusing towards an object. You're focusing on the external world. They gather information from the external world. They manipulate the object or manipulate the external world. With the introversion, this is someone who is focused inwards. They rely on their own inner experience. It's not as much about altering the external world or manipulating it. No, it's more so manipulating their own internal world. But that's the general energy output. It's simply internal. Using me as an example, I would put myself as an extrovert type. Mainly because I'm not spending time in my head. I'm not spending time in my inner world or inner experience. It's all about interacting with the object. It's all about stimulating myself with the external world, manipulating the external world in some type of way, engaging with it in order to stay stimulated. Then we have sensation versus intuition, and this is a question of how do you take information. Once again, this is a preference. Now, sensation is focused on tangible reality, tangible experience, facts, factual information. It trusts what is proven and tangible. They take a more practical and grounded approach to the world. So with the intuition, you have someone who's focused on big picture, connections, patterns, mental maps, abstractions, preferring those abstract concepts and idea exploration rather than the more practical, grounded, tangible reality. There can be tendency to focus on what can be rather than what is, potential that it holds. It looks at the underlying meaning. Now, using me as an example, again, I would type myself as a sensing type. My attitude is all about realism. I've always cared about facts, what is true, what is tangible, what can be proven. I don't care about people's delusions or their own little circle jerking shit. I care about what is. Never really created some kind of more sentimental or more spiritual attitude to the world. No, I just see it for what it is, right? I always try to be as kind of most as grounded in a sense. But this is also seen in my attitude to theory. It's seen in my attitude to typology itself. If something says, oh, this theory says this, or this theory doesn't mention this, that's cool, but it's not about the theory, it's about the reality. So you take a theory and then you try to look, does it apply to reality? Does it apply to what you see? If it doesn't, I'm sorry, your theory is wrong. Theory is important. It is relevant. If the real life example completely contradicts the theory, you have to adjust the theory to real life. Then we have thinking versus feeling. Thinking does decisions based on logic. It makes decisions based on what is consistent. It cares a lot about that. It cares a lot about fairness, about objectivity. It cares a lot about truth over personal feelings and other people's feelings. They often ask themselves, does this make sense? Now, with feeling, they can make decisions based on their own personal values, their personal feelings, how they feel towards things, right? Or how other people might feel. They might be attuned to that, either their own feelings or other people's feelings, the ideas of the world around them. They can value compassion greatly and consider other people's emotions when making decisions. They can struggle with conflict if it will impact their relationships. Now, with this one, I would type myself as a thinking type, which is crazy, right? I'm an SCE, yet I would think I'm a thinking type. How is this possible? Mainly because I see myself as much more try-hard in the intellectual sphere. I really do care about when people are inconsistent, when things don't make sense. That's what I give a shit about. I care about the truth prevailing over other people's emotions, over my feelings. I don't give a shit about that. To me, the truth is the most important. It is a virtue. It's a principle. So I care a lot about those things, yet I'm also an SCE, which makes sense. The super ego block is all about self-actualization. A TI vulnerable type like the SCE will want to self-actualize. So there's a lot of emphasis placed on intellectualism. Obviously, that doesn't mean that every single SCE will be that way, but in theory, that's how this shit works. So judging versus perceiving. This is your average conscientiousness facet in Big Five, right? So judging types are more organized. There's more rigidity with the judging types. They want to close situations quickly. They want to make decisions quickly, but decisively, not leaving as much room for possibilities and exploration. They're, again, as I said, more rigid. So there's not as much adaptability. They like to have clear-cut plans, deadlines, schedules, structures. With the perceiving types, you get flexibility, you get spontaneity, you get adaptation in the moment. In many ways, going with the flow of the environment. Personally, for me, I would identify as a perceiving type. Now, it's not because, I cannot be rigid. It's not really about that. But I'm not a person who has to-do lists, to very organized, I just, I know what I need to do. All about adaptability and going with the flow, honestly, see where that shit takes me. Based on this dichotomy, I would type myself as an ESTP. Again, don't be sweaty about the correlations. Just stop with the correlations, okay? You need to forget the correlations. Type yourself as you are using those very simple dichotomies. Let me know down below what you think of this. Would you elaborate on any of the dichotomies? How would you describe them? And what do you identify as with dichotomies in mind? I'm out, I'm Chowers, and I'm bouncing.